Into everyone's life a little rain must fall. Aha. Good old mate. Let me see here now. There we go. Everything looks good. Dun, dun. Well, made a few little changes with Art Galaxy Tech, who is my commander-in-chief of all things technical. And I am just a lowly artist because it's all I know how to do. When it comes to the rest of the stuff, what can I tell you? But it's time for rejoicing. Rejoicing. Why? Come look. Yes, you are seeing it. Twin burnt orange. And I got some Payne's Gray just because I needed some. I got tired of baking them. But this is the magic color. Yes. In oil painting, I don't even bother starting unless the Quin Orange is available. And let me tell you, it is a great color. And you will see that tonight. And I'm really, really happy we have it. For the other reason is that it can be used, it can definitely be used on Rembrandt. And I can't believe that I ordered it yesterday and it is here today. Amazon, God bless you. Thank you. God bless you, Amazon. I am totally impressed. And I mean that without a word of a lie. I am absolutely impressed. Now, I was wondering, looking at my picture of our friend here, and I did notice that we had indeed had a slight difference in the terms of the. So when I sketched it out using another reference photo, and now this actual photo is from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, which is the actual paintings which I wanted, but it wasn't what I used for the sketch. And now I'm starting to think the one I used for the sketch actually somebody had done it and taken some liberties with it, or digitally or something, because although it looked like it, it didn't really look like the Man in the Golden Helmet we've all come to know and love. And I was a little surprised, and now that I double checked it, yes, indeed, there is definitely a difference, and that means I have to bring this out a little farther, and I also have to bring this out a little farther. So I knew it was bothering me last night, and I kind of corrected it on this side, which is fine now. But by the same token, it isn't. This still has to go a bit farther. So these are the little things you got to be careful of. And the trouble was, I don't mean trouble. What I mean is the annoying thing is that you need the actual sketch, and or the actual painting, and I realized that after I sketched it out that I said, it's Van Gogh and Helmet, but for some reason it didn't feel like Rembrandt. Somebody had redone it, but had really kind of updated it, so to speak. And while it was well done, it wasn't the Rembrandt from the Rijksmuseum. So I sketched from the wrong source material. You got to be careful of that. To be honest with you, I know better. Yes, I know better, and I'm the one telling you that. Yeah, be careful. Well, it's bloody embarrassing, I got to tell you. I mean, holy Moses. I mean, what does a guy have to do? First of all, he's going to learn how to pick up his brush. That would help, right? Anyway, I had a quote all set. But unfortunately, I had it all set and I forgot what it was. So there you go. But it'll come to me. At which point I'll break into an interlude here and I'll say, aha! The quote! So we're going to make a few little adjustments there. And we're going to do them right now. So I don't have to think about it later. And this certainly will change things. Sketch-wise, anyway. So now we're going out to about... We're actually going out to about here. Then we have a bottom of the helmet there. And we're coming down and out and coming down to about that. Then it cuts up. You know, it bugs me because when I was doing it, I went, I've done this before. Something just didn't feel right. And I went, well, it's been so long since I've done it. Is one problem, to be honest with you. This cuts down like this as well. And we have the red underneath, and then... Which I think is what will fix the problem right away. So I'll just get this in. I'll just get this in. Oh man, I love this hardboard. Oh man, oh man, oh man. It's just so beautiful to paint on, It's just, I think they made it for me. That is the worst conceit that you ever can think of. Oh yeah, they made it for you. Yeah, sure they did. Okay. Oh god, idiotic, but one needs to keep oneself amused while painting, because if one does not keep oneself amused, and this now comes down like that, I'm fixing. Funny enough, the face was fine, but the helmet was definitely a little off. And this comes down more like this. Looking. What the hell is going on? actually comes out a bit further, I think, as well. I think that it now has got it. There we go. Ah, now the helmet's sitting on his head. Okay, well that's kind of what I wanted. Okay. So, where are we going from here? Well, without further ado, I'm introducing you to Quinn Orange. God, I missed you. Oh, really? Rembrandt could have made this color. I know that you're saying to yourself, probably. I don't know what you're saying to yourself, but I'm thinking it could be something like, only a bloody artist would go on and on about a color like that. True enough. True enough. True enough. But I didn't even tell you the most amazing part of it was. Oh, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't even tell you the most amazing part. Which was... Oh, look at that. God, and he died so perfect. But here was the part that was so perfect. I look up the color. And this color is normally about Amazon, well, say it's about $25 or something. I mean, first, quality paint. So, I mean, you're talking professional grade paint. Well, when I went yesterday to order it, they had it on like 75% off. This one color. In fact, they had it was $6.99. And it was so low in price compared to the normal paint. What they did is they said it wasn't even a color to you could order by itself. You had to you got an Amazon, you have to have $25 worth of stuff for free shipping for Prime. So I went, oh, I better buy another color. So I had to go and I bought the Payne's Gray, and to make it the $25. But it was on for $6.99. So here, that's how great a day it was. To be honest with you. Not only did I get it for an amazing price, I got it for $6.99. Wow, man, I was on a roll. I was on a roll. Oh, God. I'm telling you, I've been waiting to paint all day. I know it sounds crazy, but, and I know how late it was last night when we stopped, but, when you're sort of in a painting and you really want to sort of, I mean, you're really happy the way it's turning out, which is true. I'm very happy the way this painting's turning out. And you have your right colors and all that stuff. It just eats at you. I don't know why, but it does to me. It just eats at me. Like, well, something to stop you. The little guy on my shoulder saying, well, something to stop you going in there and just painting, Yeah, I know, but if I do that, then people won't see it, and, the show's going, well, I don't necessarily want to do that, because they won't see, on and on and on. I know, it sounds crazy, but the truth of the matter is that, the little guy on the other shoulder is right. So I kind of just say, well, yeah, I've got some other things I got to do, which I did. My never-ending battle with YouTube. I'm again winning the fray. But I did notice when we were doing a couple of things this afternoon, our friend Twitch had muted one song out of the mainstream. And I went, what? So now I got to go and listen to what it is and the same information. Say, look, hold on a second. Let's think about the word. domain. But I don't want Twitch mad at me. So I may not sing. It was only the one song, so who knows? Maybe they made a mistake. But unlike YouTube, it's not every single song. Man alive. You gotta be kidding me. Now, I'll show you the magic of Quin Orange right coming up. See that? So I'm getting in. Now, I'm not using black, by the way. I'm using Diox purple. And using Diox purple, I will go into now the Quin Orange. Now, underneath here, Rembrandt kind of put the paint down in terms of just look at that. Look at what it does. You see why I love this color? See how versatile it is? Look at that. Oh. Now, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a bloody artist. I really am. But man, you know, it's just that good. It just is. Can I tell you? It just is. It's just that good. And since I got it, I'm just look at that instant match. I knew that would be the case because I knew exactly what color it does. You see that right in there? See that instant match of color? I don't have to mix anything. It's right there. I can go right into it. Oh, really? You know, Lord, shoot me now, because I found Nirvana, and it's called Quin Orange, and that's enough. I'll stop now because I know you're saying, for God's sake, man, will you give it up? We understand. I understand. That's okay. It's an artist thing. I know. Anyway, he's in the right proportions now. Thank God. And thank you. Yes, and right away I put my hand in it because I'm using a short handle brush because I'm working flat, which is not my normal procedure, but I work flat without any problem. I don't really care. But I do forget not to lift. I do forget at times to not lift my hand up, and that allows me to drag my hand through the paint, which in turn will end up on the portrait painting here, which in turn drives me absolutely batty. Because I gotta fix it. And who needs that aggravation? I ask you. Not me, laddie. Not me. That's just a little bit of Diox purple and burnt umber in there. And I want to just change a little bit of the color in here. So I want to just go in and get some. Again, I'm not even going to mention its name this time because somebody will probably phone the art. Somebody who's got an in with the gods of art or something will be complaining about me. So I won't even mention what color this is. I've talked about it enough. Hell, I was even over in Russell Stewart's channel last night talking about it. They must think I'm obsessed or something. But in fairness, he didn't know about the color, and now he does. And it's a color everybody should know if you like this toning. Again, it's not to everybody's taste, but I've never found an artist I haven't introduced it to that said, "Oh God, you like that?" No, never, never, ever, never. It's funny, you know. There's some colors you gotta really wonder. I was I don't know if I mentioned this last night, but I was over doing some like when I was doing paint yesterday. I thought, oh, you know what? You know, while I'm here, what I should do is grab grab a little flake white, and just putting a little Payne's gray out just to get a little bit of the darkness where I want it in. Anyway, I was looking for some flake white, so I went, oh, okay, well, I'll just grab some while I'm here. So I type into a good old Amazon flake white, and it brings me up to not a Liquitex site, but another paint manufacturer. So Liquitex doesn't seem to have it. So I went, oh, damn. So let me see who else makes it. So I went up and looked at it, and geez, they want like $40 for it or something like that. I went, are you nuts? For flake white? So then I went, you know what? There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Maybe I'll get some lead white. Well, I couldn't find it. If anybody finds acrylic lead white, please let me know, because I'll get it and get it in a second. Because I don't always like to use titanium white. It's very bright, and sometimes you want to. Well, you know, some companies have gone around the other way and they call it mixing white. Well, although I understand that that's most likely lead white, I do. I think most likely it's lead white, but the truth of the matter is, I prefer where it says lead white right on it. So I know I'm not suspicious by nature, but you know, how do I know? And I don't want to get a whole tube of stuff I won't even use. So now you see, this is a beauty. It dries transparent, but then what you do is you just layer on another coat and look at the translucency of the thing. It's I'm not going to say. I promise you, I'm not going to say another word about lead. Or the unknown paint. We'll call it the unknown paint. Anyhow, I wanted also to talk tonight about I wanted to give you a couple of artists who really and truly were incredible artists. And I do know it sounds a lot like it's Netherlands, Amsterdam, Flemish crazy, but it just so happens that the Flemish artists were not just good, they were amazing. So, none other than Frans Hals. And I'm not going to say much about Frans Hals. I prefer kind of, if you could, is to just kind of look him up a little bit and see his work, and then I will, if you're listening, and then I'll kind of get to it, because if you haven't seen his work, you won't really know what I mean. Because what I want to talk about is his work. But I wanted to speak also about the Hudson School tonight too. Now, the Hudson School was an American. It wasn't a school. It was a type of art. They call it the Hudson School. And these guys, they changed painting in a sense. And at the time in the 19th century, early 19th century, late 18th century, people started doing incredible landscapes. And when you're in Europe, those incredible landscapes are, well, they don't really have, how can I put this? They don't really have the vista of like the American New Continent has. Grand Canyon and stuff. I know there's places, I know that, I know it. I'm not trying to say that's not the case. What I'm trying to say is that they don't have the, bloody hell, I didn't bring in the bus. God. Where is it? Mike, Mike. Alright. Anyway, so what I'm really saying to you is that there's a problem. If you're going to start painting, huge vistas, like you're on the top of a edge of a mountain or something, and you want this long plains, and there's mountains, and there's valleys and rivers, and like really huge vistas. The problem is perspective. You really got a problem, because a lot of the stuff is so far away that it's not right, frankly, if you try to get it all in, because it's either going to be too small in terms of perspective or too far away, and outside of mountains you're kind of stuck. So how do you fix that? Well, this was the problem that was which was noticed by the Hudson School, and they were able to fix it. They were. I don't know what's going on tonight, but I thought I'd put out. I thought when I put this out, it was the had red, and it wasn't. I keep using it, and I'm going, why isn't it working? It's not working because he didn't put the color out, the idiot. Idiot, as the Scottish heritage would say. Bloody idiot. Bloody hell, you're an idiot. Anyway, you had a terrible problem, and that problem revolved around one thing. How do you establish perspective in a drawing that has got a vista like that? What do? So you haven't got a ton of options. Normal perspective work was just that, normal perspective work, and they found they just couldn't capture it. They just couldn't. And anybody who was trying to capture it are usually those pictures you see on the Antique Roadshow and stuff, where you go, not quite, like it just seems, something seems a little long, or it just seems a little bit amateurish in a sense, even though the artist is well known and knows what he's doing. It wasn't their fault. They didn't have a methodology to do it. So along came the Hudson School. And lo and behold, they figured it out. What did they figure out? That's the key. What did they figure out? Well, what they figured out was there was a way around this. And to this day, everybody still uses it if you're doing that type of art. But it's used for many different types of art as well. And what it is, if you look at a painting, and it's a long vista of, say, a meandering river that meanders off towards a far mountain range, and there's lots of detail, but you want something up front to set the stage for the perspective of the distance. That's the key, and that's the problem. What do you do? Well, the Hudson School figured it out. Now, if you look at a painting and you see like a branch of a tree coming out the front, and then behind it, you see this vista, it immediately tells the person's eye, that the artist and whoever's looking, that, oh, I'm standing close to it and I'm looking off way into the distance. The difference? And that difference is exactly what they figured out. And that was due to the Hudson School. And that was a huge, I can't even emphasize enough just how big that was, a discovery in art. Because it allowed then for these incredible, and I mean incredible, vistas to be painted and have the perspective correct, which was the key to it all. The correct perspective. And if that perspective is correct, then it makes the painting really, really good. And that's just what happened. They fixed it. So when you see a painting, you've got like a tree, and maybe not, you don't actually usually see the whole tree or whatever. They'll put down a rock outcrop, or they'll put something in the foreground that isn't really isn't completely fleshed out. Like, as I say, a tree branch or something like that, and then that establishes instantly what you need to do. And when you look at a painting and you see that, what you can say is, well, yeah, that's what the Hudson School figured that out. It was a huge contribution, art, made by our friends and neighbors, being Canadian, the United States of America, whereby we're Canadians and Americans, if we've been here a long time, are very, very closely tied together, and that's based because of history. And what I mean by that is that in 1776, when the Brits conceded defeat to Washington, well, it was earlier than that, but 1776 is they use as their centennial, or tricentennial coming up. But anyway, the United Empire Loyalists. Now we're talking now about the East Coast, right? Because that's really all there was to the United States, the 13 colonies. They all trudged up to Ontario. So there's tons of people in Ontario who have relatives in the United States to this day, of course. And that's because those people were United Empire Loyalists, and they came up because they wanted to stay British subjects. They did not want to become part of the British or the American country. They thought that no, they were better off with the British. Historically, you can decide for yourself if that was true, or they could decide. It didn't really matter. But the point being simply that they decided they wanted to remain British. They called them United Empire Loyalists, and they were said, "Get the hell out of our country." And they did. They left en masse and headed up to Ontario. And believe it or not, Ontario is very much like the flora and fauna, etc., of New York State. So they truly just felt right at home. It wasn't a huge difference to them. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people living here were relatives. In those days, there really wasn't a real, what you would call, border. I mean, you just crossed, and eventually you said, oh, I'm in Canada now. In fact, it was like that right up until the 1920s. And there really wasn't a border. In other words, people would simply just go to work in the States and come across the bridge or whatever, and they would be back in Canada and vice versa. I've known people work their whole lives in Michigan, and they're Canadians. They were employees of the car companies and whatnot, and that's kind of how it went. And it's interesting because a lot of our place names and places are kind of like the same as in the States. And that's because those people came up here and they kind of blazed a trail and made up a town and started all that stuff out. And what they did is they named it the same thing as they named the place they came from in states. So it's a history that is long and connected for sure. And Canada has always stood by the States. The United States, for the most part, has always stood by Canada, except for a few incursions back in the early 1800s. But our countries have been best of friends for many, many years. And while politically that might be coming to an end, it certainly isn't coming to an end based upon friendship. That'll never go away. I have many, many friends and will remain friends, no matter what. So it's kind of like first cousins, you know? That's what it's like. You can't ask a Canadian to... You just can't ask a Canadian to get mad at the American people. You just can't. There's just no way. I can't even imagine it, to be honest with you. And you know, it's been like that for so long. I mean, I think one of the earliest manifestations would have been that kind of shows you where we are at, sort of, is when Jimmy Carter was president and the Iran hostage crisis, and the ambassador to Iran, the Canadian ambassador to Iran, took in the Americans from the American embassy. There was quite a number of them, and they were being hunted ruthlessly by the Revolutionary Guard. Well, we smuggled them in American passports, and I mean not American, but Canadian passports, fake passports. Got everybody out safe and sound, and said, "Oh well," and be damned what the consequences were. Didn't care. They're our friends, and that means that we will do what we have to do. And which is why it pains the Canadians a little bit to see what's happening. I'm not sticking my nose into their politics. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not American. But it pains me because I shake my head, really. But be that as it may, I'm sure it'll all correct itself out at some point. But anyway, the Hudson School of Art. Now, the next thing I was going to mention to you, I asked a kind of rhetorical question in a sense. Is it possible for a genius, in other words, like Michelangelo, to make a mistake painting? Good question. And one that has been posed a number of times. And if you answered not often, but yeah, he could make mistakes. We'll allow him to make a mistake or two. Well, I'm going to tell you probably, in terms of painting, one of the only mistakes anybody's ever found. And the mistake is in, if you want to go look it up, go ahead. You can find it. It's in the Descent into Hell, behind behind the altar. Not the Sistine Chapel, the roof, but where the altar is, and that painting that he did 20 some odd years later of the Descent into Hell from heaven, and it's huge, huge painting. Two interesting things about that, though, before I answer your question. One is that now there's no way of verifying this, but this has been rumored amongst artists for years, and there's probably some truth in the matter. But Michelangelo was very specific about what color he wanted for the sky, for Jesus to be, or God, or I can't remember now who it is, one or the other, to be represented. So in heaven, the blue, like the clouds, the blue, the whole night, the whole thing. He was very specific, and what he wanted was the most expensive color at the time known to man, and which is, yes, we'll mention it again, ultramarine blue. And as we know, ultramarine blue was probably the most expensive color in ancient the times. And the reason for it was made from a semi-precious stone, which is lapis lazuli, crushed up, and the color that you got was ultramarine blue. And it cost a bloody fortune back in the day. It doesn't like any other paint, but it's not like the most expensive color you can possibly get. No, the cadmium reds do that. Or cadmium periods do that. So anyway, so he was apparently, it was rumored, used up the entire world's supply of cadmium or ultramarine blue, painting the heaven behind the altar. Well, and there was no way he couldn't get it, because the Pope said, "Get him the damn color, man. I want this thing perfect." Now, this was a different Pope than the Pope that had originally ordered the Sistine Chapel, but he wanted to make his statement too, let's not forget. I mean, if the one guy did the Sistine Chapel, this guy wanted, well, I want somebody to remember me because of the altar behind the painting on the altar behind the altar. Oh God, painting behind the altar on the wall. Thank you. I got it out. Anyway, so he used up the entire supply that was available to the world. If you can imagine. I mean, really. Now that I've got my color, I'm just dropping some in places here. And you can see why. Look, really. You don't need any explanation to see why. Oh, yes, okay. Anywho, the mistake. Well, before I mention the mistake, I want to give you a little bit, just a tad, of just how unlikely this scenario was. You're not just talking, there's discussion to this day. Well, who was the better sculptor, Bernini or Michelangelo? And really, it's really a kind of a silly discussion. And the reason I say that is Bernini was an absolute master of sculpture. No question about it. Unbelievable master of sculpture. But unfortunately, he didn't have the genius of Michelangelo. And he had talent beyond compare, but he didn't have that genius. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that Michelangelo was able to transcend how can I put this? He was able to almost transcend reality. Now, I know that sounds kind of metaphysical, but I don't mean it that way. I don't mean reality like, like space-time or anything. I'm talking about the physical attributes of his statues. So, and my example will explain exactly what I mean, so bear with me. So what I simply mean is, you're talking about a guy who was only 20 some odd years old, just came into the guild, and was able to do the Pieta. Now, the Pieta is simply the Jesus and or Mary holding Jesus in her arms after he's cut down off the cross. So he's in her arms. It's a very famous statue. If you just look up Pieta, Pieta, you'll see the statue if you want. And that statue is probably the greatest statue in the world. And why would I stick my neck out and say that? Well, there's reasons. And those reasons revolve around some physical attributes that involve that statue. So you may ask, what in God's name is this idiot talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is, when you look at the statue, it looks completely proportioned. And I mean that. I mean, it looks exactly perfect. Mary mourning the loss of her only son, having been crucified by the Romans, and the pathos and the grief is shows, and that goes without saying. It's incredible that way, and that's where Bernini would rival him. That expressiveness. In fact, I'll even go as far to say at times Bernini even surpassed him in some of the statues. And but this is the key here. The key is that although Bernini surpassed him in sometimes the expression, nobody could surpass him in the following way. If you measure her out in terms of size, structure, etc., in terms of the physical proportions of that statue, Mary would have to be 12 feet tall. Think about that for a minute. 12 feet tall. So the question is, how is that possible? That's a good question. His genius was able to transcend physical dimension and make a woman who was 12 feet tall look exactly the right size holding the body of her son. Think about that just for a second, as I say. She's 12 feet tall. But when you look at it, you can't see that. It's not possible. You just don't see it. She looks perfect. Now, how the hell do you do that? And it's not just me saying, how the hell do you do that? It's been people for centuries now saying, how the hell did you do that? Well, there's where the genius comes in. And I know of no other sculptor who could get away with it. I know of sculptors who extended sometimes the like, you know, the statue of Akhenaten, etc. You know, where they, it's designed so when you look up at it, it looks correct, but if you look at it from standing in front of it, it looks completely misshapen. So yeah, you know, there has been some things that came close, but nothing like marriage. Mind you, the Egyptians were did it 5,000 years ago, so that's got to count for something. But again, it isn't as well known a statue either as Michelangelo's Pieta, mainly because if you don't know anything about Egyptian history, it doesn't really mean much to you, and it looks wonky if you look at it, because it was designed to look that way, because everybody who was looked at it had to look up at it. And if you look up at it, it looks fine. So there's that. So that kind of is the only one I can think of anyway that has ever transcended the actual reality. So nobody. Now, even in his day, like I'm talking when his lifetime. Remember I said he was only 20-some odd years old when he did it? Well, this was not lost, this impossibility, in terms of proportion, on the sculptors of the day. In fact, I think what it did is scared the living hell out of them. Because they went, who the hell is this? And how the hell did he do that? And I think what happened was, he simply, you know, like young people's mathematical skills, if you're a mathematician, are really the highest when you're in your 20s. Well, I think in terms of sculpture, it may be the same thing. Because although he did David and a lot of other sculptures, nothing ever compared to that sculpture. David, yes. I'll explain David in a second, but really nothing. And he did a lot of sculptures after that, but later in life, they just did not come to the same. I know they're lauded over, but they just didn't have that incredible quality of them, which was almost impossible. And so what happened is his fellow sculptors, the older crowd who were getting the commissions before he came along, said, he didn't do it. It's all a lie. Somebody else has done this, one of our colleagues, and they're just saying that he did it. Well, he heard this rumor, and he was so enraged. He did something he regretted for his entire life. Now, you can imagine just how mad he is when you realize what he did. And what he did is the sash across Mary's chest, her bosom. What he did, he went in, and on that sash, he carved his name. And it's still there. You can see it today. Never been altered. And this is Michelangelo. So nobody, and I mean nobody, would say that he hadn't done this. And he never signed another piece. And in his writings, he continually laments the fact that in his youth he was goaded into this, in a sense, to do this, because he thought it was ostentatious. There was no need. His sculpture should speak for itself, which it does. There's no need. But again, he was a young man, and he was goaded into it by people older than him. And the consequence was that he carved his name into the sash and instantly regretted it. So he made up for it by never signing another piece of work. which to the modern historian is a little bit annoying because once in a while you find a sculpture. In fact, there's some sculptures that actually had been abandoned by him. The students finished. Fed up with them, or they wasn't the way he wanted. There was a flaw he wasn't expecting, and he just abandoned it. And some of these sculptures can be seen at the same museum that is in. And they were finished by his students who said, "Oh no, it's so good that nobody else can even do this, so we can't just throw it away." As insisted, snuck it away and finished it for him, then made note that this was from Michelangelo, and to this day we still have it. And thank God for that, because there was a bit of vanity there. I mean, he was a human being, immune to vanity. Wasn't to his standard, or there was something that really annoyed him, like finding a flaw he didn't know was there. No, he was more than a little mad. And he showed it. Which is fine. I mean, really. Nothing wrong with that. But again, what he thought was junk today is priceless. Now on to our friend, for all our German-speaking friends out there, our friend, Herr David. What's the deal with David? Well, here's a very interesting story. A number of years ago, an orthopedic surgeon had gone to Florence to see David. And that's a bone doctor, as you all know. And he'd gone to Florence to see David. And he was an orthopedic surgeon, so he knew exactly what he was looking at, obviously. Michelangelo was very particular about anatomy and the correct anatomy. And again, he pulled the same number off with David simply by changing the actual sizes of the hands, for instance. And he was able to make him look like he was resting on one foot when in fact the weight of the statue is on the other leg, which is just amazing. But and the hands are out of proportion. I mean, technically, but they work just fine. The gaze, which is the statue's eyes, etc. The fact that he got away with making the nose a bit more to a Jewish nose, because he was being constantly harassed by one of the cardinals who kept telling him that the nose of David was too Jewish and to change it, and every time he said he would, he never did, and when the statue was finished, nobody noticed, and the cardinal was madder than a wet hen, but that was just bad. And bearing in mind, of course, that David was Jewish. Anyway, it shows the hypocrisy that went on. So anyway, this orthopedic surgeon is looking at the statue. And he's looking at the shoulder. I think it was the left shoulder. Let me think. Yeah, I think it was the left shoulder. And he notices one of the bones placed. The bone structure isn't quite right. Like, not that a layman would ever notice. In fact, not that anybody except an orthopedic surgeon would ever notice. As a matter of fact, nobody had ever noticed in 500 years, so there you go. But this guy knew his anatomy in terms of bones. He went, oh, geez, wonder what's with that. And so then there was speculation at the time that, maybe Michelangelo had made a mistake. You can't tell this, by the way, by looking at it. To the average person, if you don't know anatomy like the back of your hand, you won't even notice this. It's impossible to spot almost. But if you're an orthopedic surgeon, yes, you can spot it. I'll grant him that. Not that this guy did anything wrong. He just pointed it out. I'm not implying that he did something wrong or did anything that was not genuine, or he was trying to cause trouble or anything like that. There's nothing to do with that. He just made the observation. So, what to do? Well, good question. Good question, my good man. What to do? It was looked at, and they came to the conclusion that they were, and he was indeed correct. There was in this big, huge hunk of marble that Michelangelo has kind of rescued because two other sculptors had abandoned it because it just wouldn't work for them. Now that part of the story kind of explains what happened, and I'll show you why in a second. They actually went in and they looked up the records. Michelangelo kept records. He didn't keep his sketches, but he kept records. And in the records, they were able to ascertain that he had come, in using this big block of marble, he had come to a section that had a flaw in the marble. That flaw was where the sculpture, where the shoulder was. So instead of abandoning it because it was like 80% done, all he did was sculpt around it. Now, think about that. It presented a problem, but not to him, because he said, oh, I can fix that. Okay, nobody will ever notice. But he made note of it in case, I guess, in the future somebody was to notice it or whatever. Kind of guy he was. But anyway, that's what happened, and he made note of it, and it was in the records, believe it or not. Now, I looked for that spot. I can't see it. When I saw David, I couldn't see it. But again, I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. And my eye is attuned more to the aesthetics as opposed to the physicality, of the structure. And but he spotted it, and Michelangelo made very sure that indeed this was noted, and it was noted, and it was sorry, I'm just concentrating here on this little spot. Anyway, it was noted, and it was also part of the sculpture, and it was now that's why I go back to say it had been abandoned by a couple of other sculptors, and I've often wondered that when the raw block of marble he used, and why, that was a big hunk of marble, 12 feet or 14 feet tall or whatever, and why it had been abandoned. Well, you know what, I'm guessing now, but I've always thought that maybe those other sculptors abandoned it because of that flaw, and they said, no, I'm not spending all that time and only to find out that I can't use it. That's kind of my conjecture, but since nobody can prove me wrong, because it's a finished statue, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. So there you go. And that is the story of David. And the people I really, really feel sorry for are the people who have gone to Florence and stood in front of the Uffizi Palace, which is now the art gallery, and looked at David and awed and marveled and went, "Oh my God, what a fantastic piece of sculpture," only to realize that they didn't actually see David, they saw a copy. Wouldn't that rock your socks? I actually told that to somebody, and they actually said to me, "Do you mean to tell me that I went all the way to Florence to see David? The David I saw wasn't David?" I said, "Well, no, it wasn't." I thought they were going to cry. Like, whoa! Are you kidding me? Yeah, no. I'm sorry, I'm not. It's indoors and it's in a safe place, in a rotunda, in a museum, up the road from the Uffizi, in Florence, of course, but not about a couple of miles from there, as the crow flies. It always is worth checking your, doing a little bit of homework before you head off around the world to see what you can see, because at least it happened to you. But I know if it was me, it would have killed me, I'll tell you, to go all that way and find out that, really. I mean, really. God. And the guy who I told that to, who actually exclaimed when the loudest when I told him that, was a guy who was he was an anthropologist. And it was his opinion or the highway, basically. So in a sense, I got along with him, but in another sense, I really and truly disliked his demeanor. And it wasn't until I found out later that he had he wasn't autistic. He had one before autism syndrome, or Asperger's syndrome. He had a mild case of Asperger's, and I didn't really know, and I didn't pick up on it, and so I was reacting to a guy who couldn't help himself. So anyway, just goes to show you, don't judge a book by its cover, right? So, but anyway, he could be more than a little bit of a. By the way, you see what I'm doing here? I've scraped away the paint in places, and you see how I'm actually using the brush without anything on it to move the paint around so it looks like it's coming through the shadow. See those little twirlies? I'm hoping you can see that, because it really adds some dimension to your work. See that? So it goes from light to not quite dark, because shadows lessen, right? So it goes from there to the beaten pattern on the armor. By the way, I have picked out the next old master. I made the decision last night, and the next old master shall be, are you ready for this? Shall be, probably you can guess, but it's going to be The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Vermeer, which will be a lot of fun and a whole bunch of different methodologies than Rembrandt used to do his painting. And to be honest with you, when I finally decided, I went, That was an easy decision. Not. But when I decided, it was like, yeah, that's a good one to do. Because, to be honest with you, I was going to do Franz Hals the Gypsy. In fact, I'm still going to do Franz Hals the Gypsy. But I was going to do it next. And then I thought, you know what? You talk about Vermeer so much. Why the hell don't you just paint him? Then people can watch and see what you're talking about. I went, bloody good idea, old boy. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then we'll do Franz Hals, who had more of a Rembrandt style of painting, as opposed to Vermeer, which will be totally different from this. Because Vermeer, his style of painting was absolutely no brushstrokes. The painting was just there. One did not put brushstrokes in. Not considered cooked. And there's a reason for that. I'm not trying to imply, really, that there's some big mystery there. The reason he did that is because of the size of the paintings. You can't do an impasto painting the size as he was doing and change your style, because people go, who is this guy? Because you're selling your style at some point, right? So that's why you do that. So he kept with his style, and that was no brush strokes, and regardless, that's how he did his work. But again, it's interesting in terms of the different style, and maybe 100 and some odd years, maybe. But again, one of the greatest painters who's ever lived. Whereas Rembrandt, they knew about from the day get-go, from the day he was born to the day he died. They didn't know about they didn't know about Vermeer until the 1800s, which was kind of sad in a way. But when they discovered him, I mentioned this, but when they discovered him, because he had actually put his name on the armoire behind one of the desks. You can see it says Verm. I haven't seen the painting in person, so that's all I can make out. But they realized it was Vermeer, and in addition to that, there was nothing really known about him at all, except his court problems, which occurred after he died, where his wife pleaded with the judge to be lenient in the bankruptcy proceedings because her husband, because of the war that had been declared between Delft and I think France, that he had been forced to cause some great vexation, I think the translation was, and he had died. She implied the stress of that had killed him. Whether the judge really bought it or not, I have no idea. But they didn't get. I think he must have, because they didn't confiscate all his paintings for his debts. Not all of them. Some of them, but not. But I'm telling you this because what happened is when he was discovered, they attributed the works had been misattributed to other artists, his contemporaries that were well known. Some of his contemporaries were well known, and they attributed to them. And what happened is when he finally they registered as the artist. What happened is that I think there were 69 Vermeers that they identified at the time, and now there's 29 or 30. I'm not sure which one, but something like that. And if the art historians have their way, there will be none, probably within the next few years. But in order to counteract this, and the fact that there's museums that own what they think are Vermeers but are not registered any longer as Vermeers, kind of like that the Polish museum did with with the Leonardo they discovered they had. So they went from a lot of money to $1 billion overnight. So there you go. And that's what happened. And if they get attributed as Vermeers, then they now have incredible equity in their collection because they have a registered Vermeer. And that is what they're going to do. And they're going to take it apart piece by piece. They're not going to hurt the painting at all. What they're doing is the layers, the canvas, the preparation of the canvas, the sealing of the canvas, the wood. They're going through every conceivable test known to man. And brush strokes, what's there of them, hopefully fingerprints, everything you could possibly think of. And they're going to retest those paintings and a few others that people have suspected are Vermeers over the years. So hopefully there'll be more Vermeers. You don't hear about the other ones really. You only hear about ones that they certify as Vermeers. My chagrin, must admit. He's ridiculous. Considering today's abilities, my point has always been the same. You can put a man on the moon, you can find out whether or not this guy was the artist. Come on. So it's something else, which, of course, is money. Now the money is swung so far over to the side of the artist that not much they can do to stop it. And even when they do make a decision, there'll be some people who will say, no, I'm still not convinced. Well, there's curmudgeons. Remember what I said about Peter Nahum, who the author of Huge Misfortune in London as an artist. However, I'll be returning in a split second. I'm sorry. I will be right back. Pardon my departure for a moment, but I need to get a little box of paint that I use for some specialty colors. In other words, I use so little of the color, I just buy the smaller tubes, and because I don't need a big tube, and if I don't feel like mixing it, then I have it. Okay, onward and upward. And I must say that this now is going to move into the secondary part, which is the this earpiece thing, ear flap, I guess you'd call it. Now, I get in the base coat of, dare may I say it, an orange. Get it in. And because it's very transparent, work your way around here. Lay color on top of color. Also, too, I only use heavy body paints. Really, I do. And now, I have never done a Vermeer in acrylic, so it will be an adventure. Needless to say, it's something I'm looking forward to, because it's a challenge that I haven't done yet. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. You know what just occurred to me? Did I jump the gun on Liquitex last night when I was looking for yesterday, looking for flake white? I wonder if I sent them I'm wondering if I sent them an email, they could tell me if their flake white is actually what they call now mixing white. That's a very art friendly company. And maybe what they've done is simply done that to make it more versatile for people who don't remember the old nomenclature. Just wondering if that could be it. And if it is, that would solve my problem. Because I would like some mixing white, frankly. I mean, God love titanium. It's bright, I love it, but nice lead white would be so nice, you know? Somebody asked me one time, what's with you in the color? Like, what's with this thing, like this thing you got about color? I went, well, if you don't know, then you're not an artist, are you? And with that, they left. Yeah. What is it about color? Well, if you don't have or are unable to get good color, what's the point? I mean, I know there's monochromatic things, whatnot, I know that, but there's styles people paint with that, I know that. But by the same token, if color doesn't excite you, then Jesus, what are you doing being an artist? Maybe just decide to do graphite or something. I'll tell you a story about that. Oh God, I forgot about that. Man alive. Forgot all about it. Anyway, I once had this Scotsman. Really nice guy. Still friends with him to this day. I don't see him a lot, but he's a friend. And he was obsessed, literally obsessed, with golf courses, but not golf. He loved the beauty of the golf course. Him, that was the most natural beauty and natural man-made beauty that you could see. Now, I know the snickering started probably, but no, he wasn't nuts. It's just that he really, really loved golf courses. And he was bound and determined that he wanted to paint in watercolor golf courses. So when I first met him, he came to me originally for a set of lessons, which turned into another set of lessons, and you know, as it goes, right? And no matter what I did after he's finished the lesson, because I kind of would show him the colors and then he would paint it out and all that stuff. But no matter what I did, no matter what I did, it didn't seem to make any difference. He'd come back with a painting and it would be a bloody gray mess. And I'd say to him, "What? I'm really sorry, but I must have really, really screwed up because, or I didn't explain the lesson well or something." I mean, of course I take it on myself because I'm the guy who's teaching him, so it's my problem, right? I mean, what did I do wrong? So at the end of the second set of lessons, when this went on and on and on and on, and I was at my wit's end, I didn't know what to do, except to say, you know what, maybe you should decide that this isn't for you. And it wasn't that he couldn't draw, but it was the color. He just did not do color. And he was a Scotsman from Glasgow. Actually, he was originally from the Clyde Bank. When he apprenticed as a boy, he had been a shipbuilder. But what he was a specialty engineer, which was a neat job. I never heard of it, but what he did is he inspected extremely high pressure welds and pipelines, etc. So he could tell you if the weld would be okay, or if there was something wrong, or it would fail. So he was in demand all over the world. So he would take off. I wouldn't see him for like 3 months, and then all of a sudden he'd be back, and then he'd take another set of lessons. So this kind of went on for a while until I finally just said, I'm like, man, I don't know what it is, but it was the first person I've ever taught that literally just did not get it. Completely not get it. Because usually if I know you're completely it's not possible for you to get it, I don't just take your money. What I do is I say, you need to decide on something else because this isn't for you. I tell him that in a nice way, and I ask him to understand, like we've been at this now for such a long time, and there's no way that you're getting this. So yeah, I have done that in the past. So it wasn't that it's something I hadn't done, and I gave him that speech, so to speak. He says to me, "Well, there's something I didn't tell you a lot." I go, "You didn't tell me?" He goes, You see, I'm colorblind." I went, "Let me guess. Blue, green, red?" He went, aye. So it all looks gray to me, so I have to guess. I know you're telling me the right colors, but I can't see. And I went, "For God's sake, man, I've been thinking 1,000 different ways to get you to, how I can get you to understand this, and you'll never get it because you're colorblind." He goes, "I thought I'd tell you because, I know you're trying hard, but, there's just no way I can do it, but I still want to paint." I said, "Well, okay, not the end of the day, okay? This is fine. Lots of people do paintings in grayscale and do watercolor grays and gray paintings. There's also lots of people who just do graphite and just do charcoal." I said, "It's not like you have to stop painting. All we'll do is we'll change direction here." And he says to me, "Well, Lottie, I'd say yes, but I really like the golf course colors." I said, "You've never seen the golf course colors." He goes, I know that, but I know they're there. I know they're there." So I go, "Oh my God." He goes, "So if you don't mind, I won't get it, but I still want to come and, well, what it ended up, we talked a lot. He really he didn't have anybody to talk to because he was away so much. He didn't have a lot of friends, like at home, because the friendship would literally be, well, I'll see you in 3 months, like that kind of thing. Where I was there, like he knew where I was. So I'd come in one day and he'd be standing with his glasses off, peering at a painting with lots of greens in it. And I go, "Oh, you're back." You go, "Hey, I'm back. Yes, and when can you fit me in?" I go, "Okay." Anyway, that's the story. So after all that, I find out he's colorblind. God. And at first I kind of thought he was joking. He wasn't joking. So I got to know him really well. Really well. I still know him really well. And when I was in Belize, I conversed with him, over email and stuff, asked him how he's doing, followed him around. He was in Madagascar for a while, which is an interesting story. He was hired to go to Madagascar. And what they did is they built a smelting plant, this company. And the smelting plant was built all over the world. So one part was built one place, another part was built another place, on and on and on like this. And he was brought on like as chief inspector engineer. And the minute he got there, he's a Scotsman. He don't care. Like he said, "It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work." And they wouldn't hear of it. They said, "Don't be ridiculous. Just because we have it built all over the world doesn't mean it's not going to work." He goes, "Aye, but every tolerance is off by maybe 1,000th or 2,000th even of an inch. It won't be right." And they started putting the high pressure pipes together in the smelter in Madagascar. And he had told them what was going to happen. So they X-ray the welds, make sure they don't give under high pressure. And lo and behold, I x-ray the welds, and what's there? Well, what's there is some structural defects because of the tolerances. What were the tolerances? The tolerances were off by such a small fraction. But even at a small fraction, those tolerances would make the pipe fail under pressure. It's like having a crack in an airplane wing, saying, "Oh, it's okay, put a Band-Aid on it." But what they wanted him to do was okay it for the Madagascar Corporation, whoever they were, the government, I guess, and say everything's fine, and we're signing off, and we built this, and we've done an incredible savings to you because we've got it done in China and India and all these places. And he refused to sign it. They said, "Well, here's the deal. Either you sign it or you're fired." He goes, "Well, I'll see you then." Walked out the door and flew home. After saying a few choice words, by the way. And I don't know if it queered the deal on for the company. I don't know if that happened. But they were none too happy. Because, I mean, these people aren't stupid. They go, "Well, tell me again why the chief engineer just walked off the job." "Oh, well, you see, no. Here's what you see is that there's problems." And that's what they suspected, and that was exactly what it was. And that company had a hell of a time until they got tolerances correct. And then, believe it or not, they actually called him back to come in once they had done the way he said it had to be done. And he told them to take a flying, well, if you know a Scotsman, you know what he told them. "Take a flying rolling donut, lad. I'm not flying back to no Madagascar." He's telling me this. I'm killing myself laughing because the way he tells it, it's so hilarious. Because he's telling you exactly the way it is. And he was like, the Scottish people are. I'm saying this because I'm half Scottish, so I know exactly what they're like. And my wife is Scottish, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is what made me really laugh about Scott. Oh shit! Never mind. Never mind is what his name was. Anyway, he's telling me that he and his wife, he had never been on a cruise. He didn't like the idea of being on a cruise. If you can imagine that from a guy who built boats in the Clyde, right? Yeah, right. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He didn't like cruising, but his wife really wanted to give it a try. But in his whole life, he's a bit older than me. In his whole life, he had never been on a cruise. Ever. So he says, "Well, maybe the etiquette I didn't quite understand." I went, "Oh shit, here it's coming. Here it comes." So I said, "Okay, Drew." I said, "Okay, what happened?" And he goes, "Well, there's a slight misunderstanding on the Lido deck." That's how he said, the Lido deck. I said, "Well, what was the slight misunderstanding?" And he says to me, "Well, you see, it's like this. I went up to the Lido deck, and I saw all these lawn chairs around, and a few of them had towels on them where I wanted to sit. So there was nobody in the chair, so I just took the towel off and threw it aside. Me and the wife were sitting there by the pool on the deck and looking out over the ocean, etc. And he says to me, "This Italian fellow," that's how he called him, an Italian fellow, which meant he was from Italy, obviously, comes up and says, "Excuse me, but you have our seats, our deck seats." And he says to me, so I said to him, "I don't see your name on it, laddie." He goes, well, no, I put my towel on it, and that means it's reserved, and you gotta. That's how it's done. He goes, okay, let me just take you over here and just talk to you for a minute. So he says he takes the guy over to the side of takes the guy over to the railing, and goes, now, here's your options here, lad. He says, either you leave us alone in the chairs, or you fancy a swim. And I goes, swim? He goes, yeah, a swim. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to throw you right over the bloating leg right now. You don't leave me alone. So, I guess the guy had a three-cornered fit, because the guy just ran. Can you imagine? So you're looking down from the top of one of those giant cruise ships, and here's a guy telling you he's going to throw you over the side if you don't stop bugging him. So anyway, he goes, I didn't realize. He says, I was a little harsh. He said, this is what stuff that he would do. And I'm just killing myself laughing, going, oh my God. Did he report you to security or something? He goes, no, I never heard another word. I said, you're lucky. He goes, no. I wasn't expecting you. Well, how's that? He says to me, well, you got to look at it from his point of view. I said, well, okay, I'm looking at it from his point of view. How do you figure the guy wouldn't go to security? How did you know that? He goes, well, he must have known from the way I told him that if he had gone to security, I would have found him and thrown him over the rail. And I just, honestly, it just hit my funny bone, and I just roared laughing. You imagine this wild man on the Lido deck of a boat, you know? Oh my God, honestly, it was the funniest thing I think I've ever heard. The way he told it, you know, it was just hilarious. And suffice to say, he never went on another cruise. He didn't like it, because it's like you being in jail. How's that? He goes, well, you can't go anywhere. I said, Jesus, Murphy, man, this boat's so big, you couldn't cover the whole boat in a week if you walked around it. He goes, yeah, but not stuff necessarily I want to see, you know. I go, oh my God, you're a wild man. You are a wild man. And then he would just laugh. Because you have to know Scotsmen to realize this. A lot of bark, often, and no bite. But sometimes there's bites, you never really know. I guess that's what the Italian tourists who met him on the boat figured out real fast. Would you take the chance? I wouldn't. Oh, it's not that big a deal. It's a deck chair. Oh, okay, well, yeah. Deck chair, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just find something else. He told me he never saw him again for the whole cruise. I said, well, that's not unusual, because the boats are so bloody big that you can go a whole cruise and actually go down and meet somebody. And if you don't actually want to meet them, you don't see them for the whole week. I said, that's not unusual, man. He goes, oh, I thought he might be avoiding me. I said, no, he probably just never ran into you again. But that's what he did. If you can imagine. Just unbelievable. Okay, I'm sort of getting in on these little highlighted points of light here. A little bit more, because I know they're going to dry later. Got a little point of yellowy cream here. I'm going to let the yellow show through, and that should do it. If it doesn't, I'll have to go back and fix it. But hopefully it'll do it. Hopefully. Don't know for sure. I also have to get more this red here. Come on. Your CAD red. Act like it. There you go. There we go. Madman. Now, I also have to tell you, by the way, when I'm painting like a bigger painting, I use a variety of brush sizes. When I'm painting small like this, I usually end up with like a 5 or 6. I'll just use it because it's so small that it doesn't really matter. And, you don't really have to keep changing your brushes. I don't anyway, because I'm working flat, so I don't need to pull myself away. That's good and dry now, so I'm going to put in a little bit of there. Now there's a really, really bright section of red up here. Really bright. So I'm going to lay down which only can be considered probably more of a blob than more of an impasto look. There we go. That does that. And and we will move on shortly to the as I just drop this down just slightly with a bit of yellow on top of the orange to get that slight ochre look, which I want, which you need. I'm not really happy yet with this little section in here. I have to get in, hopefully now that it's dried properly. With some detail that he put in. Animation, okay. So I'm getting a little bit of detail here that Rembrandt has thrown in here to emphasize. God almighty. And the other thing I was going to mention today is that, about a month and a half ago, I get a letter from, an email letter, from this company, Quora. I don't know if you know what Quora is, but if you don't, I'll explain it really quickly. What Quora is, Quora.com, is a place where anybody in the world can go and ask a question. And the question is answered by people who know the answers. So when you join Quora, you say, here's my expertise, art, archaeology, So you write all that down. So then questions get fired to you non-stop through email and whatnot, or when you go to the site. Oh, there you are, Regina. How are you? Good to hear from you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm actually going to get just down to underneath his chin, and then we're going to have some fun with the fan brush. And that should be fun. The last time I used the fan brush was with oils. I've never actually used it with acrylic, so it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm hoping it's very similar because the paint, the heavy body paint is very similar to oil paint. So I'm not expecting any huge problems, but it remains to be seen. the experiment will be in order, let me tell you. But if you see me turning blue or from holding in a curse, you'll know why. And anyway, I've got Plan B. I've already got Plan B set up. So if it doesn't work, I know what I'm going to do. So it's not going to be. It really won't be that big a deal. But yeah, there's a learning curve. I've never had to use a fan brush on acrylics. At least I'll be honest with you, I can't remember ever using a fan brush on acrylic. Somebody might out there who's got a painting or something say, "Well, you used it on this painting, and I've got it sitting on my wall." Yeah, okay. If I did, I apologize. I just don't remember it. That's all. Call it the vagaries of, well, age, I guess. That I remind myself every day. And I keep reminding myself, I'm enjoying myself probably more now than I have at any other time in my entire life. Because all I have to do, mind you, don't get me wrong, I shouldn't say that really. I enjoyed every second I had my gallery and academy, and I really do. I really like teaching, and I still actually teach a number of people. I don't have a ton anymore because I do it only private lessons. I only do it in my home studio, one at a time. But I really enjoy it, and I've got a group that not a group, I'm sorry, private lessons. But the people who come are very nice people, and I enjoy their company, and keeps me going. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm painting. So there you go. How much better can it get? I mean, I'm not trying to say that everybody's life is, there's anything wrong. It's just that I gotta admit that I'm a happy camper when it comes to that stuff. There's no part of it that I'm not enjoying. And let me tell you, it took me a long time to get here. It just didn't happen overnight. No. Many, many moons. And I've been painting for my whole life too, so that's the other side of the coin, right? I mean, which is really weird because, as I've said, I was in Belize for 3.5 years, and I painted virtually nonstop the whole time I was there. In the sea, the sand, the beautiful, beautiful place, really. Until I got it off my bucket list, Anyway, saying that, I always kept in touch with all the people that, ex-students and whatnot. And it's like a giant happy family, I guess. And a lot of my students, for instance, even in Belize, which I thought was kind of cute, to be honest with you, especially the younger people who would call me and say, or not call me, but email me and say, "I'm emailing you my picture, and there's a problem with it. Please tell me what I have to do." And invariably I would. I could see by what they were doing. I said, "Do this, do that, do this." And so that's kind of nice too. Nothing I like better to see a person really starts to succeed, like especially in art. It's so gratifying to, they realize their potential. Nothing like it. For me, anyway. I really and truly enjoy that part of it. But what kills me is some of the younger people I taught lessons to. Like now that I'm back from Belize, they're much older, right? So I have one 16-year-old girl, and she's turning into probably one of the best portrait artists I've ever taught. But she has all that 16-year-old angst about whether she's good enough for this or that, and I think it's okay. So I get a little email. This afternoon, and she goes, "You know that painting, Paul, that you said was so good?" And I said, "Yeah, I know the painting." So I sent an email, yes. I was texting, actually. Yes, I know the painting. Well, it's going to be at the McMaster Art Gallery campus Thursday. You think you might want to come to see it? I said, "See it? I'll be there with bells on. Guaranteed. Of course I'm coming to see it." Oh, man. And here's the story of this painting, which will give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So she does this painting. Actually, it was a self-portrait. So she emails it to me and says, it was done in charcoal. Actually, it was pencil and charcoal, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, she emails it to me and says, "Do you think this is any good?" And I look at it and I go, oh my God. She caught herself so well, her personality, that I was absolutely just stunned. Really. I went, oh my God. So, of course, she brings it. She won't bring it over for me to see. I can only see it on an email, because she doesn't want me to actually, in case, and the real reason that she does that is because in case it doesn't look as good in real life as it does what she thinks on the paper, then it won't be good. I said, it's that good. Don't worry about all this crap. Stop it. Yet there's all this angst going on, right? So I say to her, it's good. So it's for school. It goes to a private school. And her art teacher in the private school takes one look at it and says, holy moly, you did this? By the way, I didn't help her with this at all. This is all her own. There's no professional hand to it. It's just her. And said, you did this? And went, yes. And so the teacher knew about this Hamilton thing. So she takes this 16-year-old down to the head of the art department in the school and says, this is a painting I think should be included in this show that's coming up for the school at the Hamilton Art Center. And the other teacher apparently isn't an artist, even though she teaches art. Now how that works I don't really know, but she's not an artist. And which is the worst thing, because then she tells the girl, my student, that she can't guarantee it, but it'll be considered for the show. So she's standing there, and her art teacher's standing there. And apparently the art teacher goes ballistic. Her art teacher says, are you out of your mind? This is probably one of the best portraits I've ever seen. This is going into the show. And so these two teachers are having it out, and she's standing there going, oh my God, you know. And so she came to me on the Saturday and said to me, well, it's being considered because the person who's in charge is the person who makes a decision on what goes into this show to represent the artists in the school. I said, oh, well, don't worry about it, because if your teacher is that adamant, then for sure it's going to be in the show. Don't even think about it. She goes, oh, I don't know, you know. And so then she sends me this email that says, she never says another word about it. That's the thing. She never says anything more to me about it. This was a few weeks ago. So then I get an email or text today. Well, my art's in the show, and do you think you'd have time to come and see it? And I go, see it? Of course I'll come to see it. I mean, like, is the Pope Catholic? You know, like, yeah, I'll be there. And she's like, are you sure? I said, of course I'm sure. So anyway, Thursday night the show will be a little bit later, because I'm going to be at the art show looking at my students' work. And I'm looking forward to it, because this is the first time she's ever been in a show, which is kind of neat, right? I mean, because once you get your art and you're putting it on public display, that's a big step. Because now the whole world is looking, and I know she's not sleeping, worrying about this. What if they don't like it? What if somebody says, what's that doing here? Yeah, I can just see her doing this, right? And I keep reassuring her and reassuring her. I had reassured her. Teachers reassured her. No, 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 no. Well, that's a lovely blob of paint there, but it's a bit too much, so I had to dump it. It was bloody lovely. In fact, maybe I will use it, and I'll use it over here. A little bit of impasto over here. Paint impasto, not medium impasto. I meant that quite seriously, by the way, the other night when I said that. I don't like using impasto mediums. I really and truly don't. Because I really and truly don't think that you get the depth of color and that you can by building up the paint to get it. So I don't use it. And the people who do use it, good. If you like it, that's okay. That doesn't matter to me at all. But I'm just saying that for me personally, that's why I don't use it. So I was asked why I don't just use impasto a few nights ago. And that's why, and I've explained it, and it's just a personal thing. Like, I just don't like the lack of depth in the color. Because it's clear. And if it's clear, then it doesn't have it, to my way of thinking. And it's got to have that depth of color. Want to make me happy. And by God, one thing in life you got to say. Your paint, you better be bloody happy with it. Eventually, at some point. Because if you're not happy with it, who the hell's going to be happy with it? Just like I used to say to my adult student artists, you know, they would go into, they would get to the point where they would go into local shows and whatnot, and most of them did okay. I mean, really, they weren't getting $1,000 a painting or anything, but the paintings were like $300, $400, $500 paintings, and you know they were learning, and that was okay. And I'd say to them, like, how'd you do? And they said, well, I didn't sell any. But not even this one and this one? Like, I'd pick out the ones for the show? She said, no. I said, well, did the people balk at the price? Was that it? Maybe we overpriced them? Maybe the market's changed a little bit locally here? Maybe, I don't know. Because we're local shows. They go, no. I was a little perplexed because I knew people went there specifically to get art because the prices were so damn good. Like, I know people who do that. They go in, they get a really good piece of art, and they pay relatively a small amount of money. Especially, this is what kills me, people. You know, like, I mean, people kill me, right? They'd find out that so-and-so was taking lessons from me, right? And, because, people say, yeah, I'm taking lessons, and your word gets around. I mean, it's not like it's a secret or anything. And, didn't even think about this for a while, but a person would go to then would show up at one of these shows and buy the art for like $200, $300, $400, whatever. And I made sure before it went out the door, it was done to perfection. Like, I got to tell you, there was no such thing as it's okay. It was more like, no, it's as good as it's going to get. Period. Because I don't want it reflected on me. That a piece of art goes out the door and I'm not. It's not ready for prime time. So I mean, I didn't go over their skill level, but at their skill level, yeah, it would be done perfectly. And I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't. I just basically would not have them show it unless it got to that point. Even if they wanted to show it, I'd say, no, you can do better, Anyway. So these people would follow this. This is what, literally, it just kills me. And they would go to the show and they would know this. And then they would buy these paintings up. Knowing that, in a sense, I had overseen the painting, so to speak. So it was, if I said it was really good, they knew it was really good. So if they liked the painting, they'd buy it. So they would get these paintings. People would go get a painting that you would get off me for not even close to that, right? But they would get it off them for, say, $300 or something. And they knew if they said, would you take $250? They'd go, yeah, because I used to tell them that. If they talk it down by, say, 20% or something, you say, sure, like, it's okay, whatever. Because I had adjusted prices for that. And I'd say, so they thought they were getting a deal, but they really weren't, because that was the price when I worked out the time and cost, etc. So they would get it, and so they didn't really get a deal. They thought they got a deal, but they really didn't, which was hilarious, because, I thought, oh, yeah. And I'd see them. Sometimes I'd be over at a dinner or something at somebody's house. I'd look up and I'd say, oh, I know that painting. Oh, yes, that's so-and-so's. Yeah, but she was one of my students for quite a while. Yes, we bought it at the show. I said, oh, really? I said, it's a good painting. Oh, yeah. Then it dawned on me. I went, ew. Jesus Christ. Like, how mercenary do you have to be, right? But, that's just the game. It didn't bother me. But, people kill me. Just kill me. You think, Jesus, you thought all that through for $50 or whatever. Well, not $50 for me, but to get a deal on something. And anyway, I just laughed. Just laugh and go, yeah, whatever. Okay. But, yeah, that's what happened. But anyway, they would go to these shows and they wouldn't sell. And then I just couldn't understand it. Like, other people were selling who were the same level as them and paintings that were just as good, but they weren't selling a thing and these other people were. And I thought, what the hell is going on? So, unbeknownst to them, I would go down to the show, and not incognito, I would just make myself so they didn't see me, and I'd listen. I'd go, like, they usually had some sort of a tent set up or something, one of those display tents. I showed them all how to do it. You buy those little racks and you hang your paintings up and you put not an umbrella, but it's like a patio tent thing that goes up. It's square and you can put sides down. They're not very expensive. and they aren't anymore anyway. They were at one time. Anyway, I would do that because I wanted to make sure that everything went well. So I would stand in the booth next to her and I'd listen. And what do I hear? This is what I'd hear. I'd hear, "Oh, this painting, how much is it?" Which is a clue to I like it, right? And they go, "Oh, it's this amount of money, but I'll take 20% off right away." Okay, that's fine because I told them that anyway. So that was the thing, right? And okay, and then I hear them point out everything they didn't like about their own painting. Well, I know I could have done the water better. Or I know I could have done this better. Or I know I could have done that better. And I'd be going to myself, are you effing kidding me? You're talking yourself out of the sales. And I'd say, so the next time I saw them, I go, so how did it go? No, I didn't sell any. I said, tell me when you see somebody come into your booth, look at a painting, what do you say to them? And they'd say, oh, nothing. I just tell them, it's a painting. I said, well, then I say to them, well, I had somebody go down and look at some of the work. I couldn't make it myself, but I had somebody go down and look, and they actually went into your display. They thought it was very nice. They go, oh, really? He said, actually, they actually inquired about one of your paintings. And they went, oh, really? I'd go, yeah, they did. And then I'd say to them, can I ask you a question? Why did you talk them out of buying it? And then I'd hear, I didn't talk them out of buying it. They just didn't buy it. I go, but they got the impression that really you didn't think it was very good. And why is that? I told you it was good. And they'd go, well, I think it's only fair, to point out what I don't like in my painting. And if I think maybe there's something I could have done better and stuff like that. That's all I had to hear. And then I'd say, okay, let me tell you something. There's a rule in art. And that rule is called the shut up rule. And they'd look at me. I'd say, yeah, it's called the shut up rule. And they'd go, well, what do you mean? And I'd say, well, when somebody likes your painting, what you do is you shut up. You let them look at it, make a decision, answer any questions. But what you don't do is tell them how much better you could do later if they maybe come back at another time and have a better painting for them. They liked the painting. They were interested in the painting. I said, you're talking yourself out of the sales. So I had like 2 or 3 people like this over a length of time. And when they would go to a show, I would say, now what's the first rule? And they go, always the same. Yes, I know. Shut up. I said, exactly. Stop opening your mouth about what you think about the painting. Let them decide and let them buy it. End of story. They like it, they'll buy it. And next show that came around, they're shooting. They'd come in like they were walking on air. I sold a painting. I said, let me guess, you didn't talk them out of it. And they go, no, I didn't. I didn't say anything. You said, don't say anything. I said, that's right. Say a bloody word. And they bought it. It was like, my God, they bought it. I said, well, yeah. That's what I've been trying to tell you. And then they'd go, oh, my God. Because then it would hit them. Like, you know what I just did? I talked myself out of so many sales that, and then they really got it. They went, oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I said, you got to think, right? I mean, you really and truly have to think about what you're doing. And if you're talking yourself out of sales, that's not a good thing. and nobody is going to buy anything. I would give them the example, always the same example of the car salesman, which is you go to a car dealership and they say, yeah, I like that car. They go, oh God, it's crap. Ride's no good. They're crap. They put in crappy shocks on it and all this stuff. You go, oh well, have you got something that's better? Nah, they're all the same. So what the guy's saying is, don't buy from me. Go to somebody else. Go buy a Chevy. Don't buy a Suzuki or a whatever the hell it was. And I said, what would you buy? From a guy who did that? No. Well, you're doing the same thing. So maybe it's time that you thought about it a little harder. And then he started to sell, and that would be the end of that. Then they would get mercenary. No, I can't take any money off it. That's a good price for this piece. Kills me. They get mercenary. Hey, this took a long time to paint, and it's very well done, and I think it's well worth the money. And if they didn't buy it, it wasn't because, and then they would give them the discount. Because people have to get a discount or they're unhappy. They got to walk away with a smile on their face. Yeah, look, it was $300 and we got it for $260. Okay. Sure you did. Anyway. So if there's anybody out there who's an aspiring artist and anything like this sounds familiar to you, please remember what I just said. Because you're shooting yourself directly in the foot. You're not missing. You're absolutely shooting yourself in the foot. And there's no need to do that. Because let me tell you, there's this show where I am that went on, that goes on every year. And actually, the artist, it was the artist's wife who was selling these. And they were photographs. And what they do is they take a photograph of it, and of a picture. And honest to God, when they were done, it looked like a Mary Cassatt. That was the style. And I went, whoa, that really looks amazing. Like, wow, how are you doing that? This is a while ago, by the way. Not like yesterday. And this was the story. Well, you see, we found this mirror, and it kind of messes up like one of those carnival mirrors. But every time we noticed that when we put the mirror on the painting, it would completely distort it, but it looked like an impressionist painting. I said, oh, they look like Mary Cassatt. She goes, yes, it's incredible. So they had dozens of these things, these shots. And literally, they sold like hotcakes. Like they really did. They were amazing. And I went, wow. Because, some photographs are hard to sell at an art show, but they sold a lot because of this look, this impressionistic look they had. Now, I knew the artist very well. And I asked around, and I said, so-and-so's wife's doing really well with that thing. And they went, oh yeah, every time they're heading for a show, they sell tons of it. And I went, wow, that's amazing. And then my comment was, Jesus, I'd be insuring that mirror, because if whatever that mirror is, you're making a lot of money off it. And they go, yeah, that's incredible, eh? Well, guess what turns out? There was a guy in the States who had basically did a plug. One of those guys who do plugins way back, when Photoshop was not 25 years old, maybe he was 8 or 10 years old. And he developed a plugin that distorted a photograph to make it look like it was impressionistic. This is a while ago, as I said. And what they were doing is sending him the photographs, and he was putting it through his plug-in, and they were coming out as a file. Then they would go get them printed, and then they told everybody this mirror story. And when word finally got out, they just came into the show when she was having the show, like the people who organize it, and literally just said, "Take down all your stuff. You're out of here." And it was like, what? Well, my husband's. I don't give who you are. You're lying to people, and we won't have that. And she did. She took it all out, and never came back. And she never recovered from that in terms of sales or nothing. She wasn't an artist, but nobody ever kind of trusted him or her again, which was kind of sad in a sense because he had been selling art in the area I am outside Toronto for years and years and years. Now, he still had the drive-by sale people, you know. He still had that. He had people who would come and they would see his work, and he did oils and watercolors, and they would just drop into his, like he had a studio, and they would buy his work. But anybody locally never sold another thing. And I thought, oh my God, was it worth it, man? You know, like, your reputation went down the tubes, and I don't know, to each his own. And then after, like, the sales dropped off, they lived in an area that was a little bit in the country. He had, like, where a studio was, it was, like in a silo. It was made into like an art studio, like a grain silo. And mysteriously, the silo caught fire and burnt down. Mysteriously. So all the artists rolled their eyes and went, "Oh yeah, well, I guess the insurance company bought them." And that's exactly what happened. And then basically his whole business dried up, and he was done. He was a Dutch guy, and it was unfortunate, I thought, because really his stuff was good, well priced, and it was professionally done. But I don't know what got into them, like whether it was some sort of financial problem, or I never found out. But they risked everything and lost it all, which is truly an unfortunate event. Truly unfortunate. Well, here we go. A new set of brushes. Oh! Oh, I almost ripped it apart. Son of a gun. I'm glad I figured that one out in a hurry. Okay. It's a pouch. Check that out. It's a pouch. I never saw that before. I just bought these brushes about 4 years ago. Again, they're brand new, never been used. Came out of the vault. And, all's a happy camper. Let's just see if they're any good first. Well, God damn it. Well, I don't think they are. Hold on. Pardon me while I try a different one. Maybe it's just that brush. That is not good. Oh, geez, the glue. By the way, if you buy brushes, oh yeah, that one's okay. I guess they're old. Okay, they're new, but they're old. Because this is fine. Anyway, if you have a brush that falls apart on you, because brushes tend to fall apart after a while, Usually it's just a bit of glue that's come out from the wood. And what happens is just what happened to this one here. I just noticed that the glue that holds the wood glue or whatever that holds the paint, the wood into the ferrule, the glue has given. So if you see it fall off, then you'll know. But that's what happens when you leave it in storage for too long. Oil, not oil, but just they're not made to last forever, obviously. But that's happened to me a lot of time. The reason I know that I'm so sure about that, by the way, is because I was living in Belize, and when I was living in Belize, anything, because of the salt air, anything that was made of glue, I mean anything, like whether it was crazy glue or epoxy or anything, would literally disintegrate. And you kind of got used to it because you knew that the air, it was such a like an environment that with the salt air that it was corrosive. And I remember one time, emergency gas can, those 5-gallon or whatever it is gas, the red ones with the spout you can buy. I had bought one and I had gas in it. I had like a couple of gallons of gas, just emergency stuff, a couple of gallons of gas just in case, So I was doing something, but I needed some quick solvent to get something off. So I know, I'll just use gasoline. It'll do it. Some sort of paint or something I was using. I said, I'll just go over and get it. So I went over and picked up I went to pick up the red gas can thingy. First of all, as soon as I picked up, I knew it was empty. And then I pulled it a little harder, and the actual top of the red thing, the plastic, rubbery plastic thing, came right off. It had disintegrated. And I went, oh my God. Oh my God. And yeah, that's what happened. And that's toxic, and well, not toxic environment, but a corrosive environment. And you kind of got used to it. It was something to see, I'll tell you. Now, nobody panic, please. I'm putting down an undercoating here, so. Because underneath this, he put it's black over red, really. That's how he did the painting. I'm just putting down a coat at a time. In order that cover it, get over here. Just giving it some toning here because I want to see exactly what we're going to be looking at when I come to moving it from dark colors into the reddish colors. And there's a nice transition there, so that's working fine. Needs to be a bit darker, but it transitions nicely, I should say. And oh my God. By the way, if that happens to you, this little bits of paint like that because you left it out a bit, the heavy body will do that to you. It's just the way it is. You can't do anything about it. Acrylic dries very quickly, so I forgot to put some extender down, so that's what's happening. Now the other side of the experiment here is the same thing, only I'm going to now go over top of the black for the background I put in, and I'm taking a look at that and see which one looks better. No, I'm not doing the background right now. I'm just preparing myself mentally for the challenge of getting those damn feathers in. Oh my god, I gotta use my fan brush, and I haven't done it before with acrylics. Oh my god. I feel like an art student, you know, like, oh my god, can I do that? Will it work? Will it work? Oh my god, will it work? Oh god, probably used a sand brush for 40 years. I never even thought. But, yeah, I just realized, no, I can't think of a time I used it with acrylics. Because really you don't, you know, like, maybe Bob Ross would. But, by and large, acrylics dry too fast to be using a fan brush for blending. You gotta use other ways to do it. I can't see why you would do that, but by the same token, I'm thinking, man, you know, that's a great way to get feathers in. So we're going to give it the old shot here. A moment or two. As I get this other part down below. By the way, also, just so you know, if you're using board, see how that fell off? This is what happens. If they sit for too long, see how it attaches to the ferrule? The glue that attaches it to the ferrule dies. Literally. So you just crazy glue it back in, or you do what Red Green would do. Well, maybe I'm not doing it like he would because I'm not using duct tape, but I just attach it. I gotta admit that I'm not really that big a like this, my tools are my tools, right? And they don't cost $8,000 a piece. They are simply tools. And if they wear out, then I just go get another one. And if they don't work, I just get something else. I don't really care. And I know that sounds a little bit partisan, but really, backgrounds are extremely important, but it's the background you're worried about, not the tool. Now I'm putting some Payne's Gray in now to see how that's going to work. I'm just doing a bit of experiment here. And it's not quite dry, so I'm going to wait a little bit. But it's going over this black nicely and giving it a much nicer toning because it's Payne's Gray, which is burnt sienna and ultramarine blue mixed together. And my guess is the guy who invented it, his name was Payne, because they call it Payne's Gray. But everybody knows how to make it. And only if you're lazy artist like me do you bother just buying the damn stuff because you don't want to make it. And frankly, it's cheaper to buy than it is to make because you're not using ultramarine. The sienna doesn't cost anything, but the ultramarine, well, especially you're doing a background. If you want to do that, well, okay, but you're going to use a lot of real good quality paint for a paint that really is not expensive. I mean, I think you can get a tube for probably between $15 or something. So it's not an expensive color by any means. So bearing that in mind, one does what I'm saying is you pick your battle, right? Don't do what works, but do what's cost effective and If somebody says to you, "Oh, don't make that color," or don't buy that color, just make it. Well, no, I'm going to show you some techniques down here in a minute. But no, that's not the answer. That is not the answer you want to hear. And it's not the logic you want to hear. And the reason you don't want to hear that logic is that, yes, you know what? Ultramarine kind of is expensive. And if it's expensive, then don't use it, you know? Okay. So we got some ochre over there. Just kind of wondering whether I should ochre or parchment. I'll go with the ochre first. Get that ochre in, and I'm going to cover this whole section here with the ochre. I'm not particularly worrying about whether or not I'm following exactly what is sketched in, because I'm making the paint thin enough I can see through it, same as I would with an oil paint. Thin it down and see what I need to do from my lead lines through the sketch, and I'm just putting the lines in, you know. Voila. Here. So that'll give me, this base will give me the color I'm looking for, which is the buildup of really bright color like it is up top. That'll give it to me. And it's also showing me that the ochre acrylic does not play well with the and orange. They do not play well together. Some of these in down. Because this is a plate, eh? But like a chest plate. Down over here like that is a chest plate. Underneath that. So this is kind of metal. What it is. See, when I realized after my sketch what had happened, I went in and I realized that what had happened is that the person who did I don't know who did it, but whoever kind of updated to the 20th century, the Rembrandt, did it made it more what's the word? Gave it more detail than Rembrandt did. Because Rembrandt, the whole thing was just the face and the helmet. That's what he concentrated on. There's other versions out there that they concentrate more even on the armor and whatnot. But I don't really think that's what Rembrandt had in mind, and that's not what I'm doing. That's nice and dry. back a little bit of that up there. Ochre. Drop it down. And often you put down a coat of paint that you want to knock it back later on. So for a minute or two, when you're doing your painting, you let it dry, and then you go, okay, that's now seeing shadow, but you can see the hint of the light from the embossing coming through the other side, and that's what you want. That's what you want. Now this plate actually comes. This kind of get this roughed in a little. I know it looks like a bit of a hodgepodge right now, but this is what you need to do to get the colors you want for the underpainting. The only way to do it. Well, it's the only way to do it and get a good look. You know? The only way, in my opinion. The only way I was shown how to do it. You do what you know. Dun, dun, dun. Putting on the paint a little thicker now, and the reason is that I want to get those colors in so I can work on top of them. Really what I want to do is do some real heavy glaze. Get that. Oh, again, I can't remember the damn term. I still can't remember. I don't know why. But to get that look in, where you scrape the Caravaggio did, which was scrape away the paint down to the canvas, and then it would be. Oh God. I'm gonna look that up today and wonder I didn't. So that's my fault. Should have. But other things intervened. Massive. what you'd call them, like chevrons or something. Not chevrons. I forget what they call them. Somebody wears this stuff. The soldiers were quilted, sort of like armor. They did that in order to no. Technique here. Okay, so what I want is a technique that shows this through here. Might take more than one coat. Okay, the V. Doesn't really matter how many coats it takes until I get the look I want. What I'm doing is I'm simply just using the bristles on this brush to tap in a more complicated background, a la something that Rembrandt would do. And yeah, wait for that to dry now. And which again, you know, this is the beauty of oils or acrylic. I mean, this takes long. See, the thing is with an oil painting that I find is it takes, when you're doing like this type of oil painting, like really high end stuff, is that you know exactly what you have to do, but you have to sort of plan it so far in advance, because you can't just do that and go, well, I'll have to come back in a week and finish that off. You can't do that. You just can't. So you end up having to plan everything so you know exactly what level and what time and when to put it in and when not to put it in, and you have to try it out often as well, like to make sure it's working right for you. Because sometimes when you're doing these old masters, you know, they're employing techniques that haven't been used in a long time, right? Sometimes you're breaking ground that hasn't been broken in a long time. Now I've got some umber in there, and what I'm going to do, the umber is actually doing a nice cover job and letting the burnt orange just peek through, which is exactly what Rembrandt did. So, or the look he got. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. And I'll just let that dry. Hopefully, as it dries, I'll get that from reddish scrape canvas look up to what I want. And down here, it's like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's leather but it's kind of textured like leather. So I'm pulling this around here to get down. Again, use a technique that I use to do leather. And you know where faux painting came from, is the artist, because they know how to do it. Killed me when you know that. Do you remember when sponging was in style and all that? Myself laughing. I said, I think this is new. Doing this since a little boy. Anyway, I was one time watching Bob Ross thing. And he was Bob Ross, not Bob. Sorry, not Bob. Jesus, Bob Vila, not Bob Ross. Bob Vila. Anyway, Bob Vila he'd start on a project, but after a while, I think he got sick of it, and he did a whole series on mansions and semi-castles that were done on the east coast of the United States by rich industrialists over the years. And what he did, he would go with the person who was doing the tour, who was like the park ranger sometimes, but they really knew about the building. And they were in New Jersey, I think it was. I think it was New Jersey. And what they did is they went into this house of this industrialist who had died like 1920 or something. Like, pardon me. Who had died many, many moons ago. And she was going over the attributes of the house, which was kind of neat. And it was even more neat than I thought. And I'll tell you, well, here I'm going to sound like Bob Vila. Yeah, it was neat. But anyway. So, his interviewing technique, he was always seemed to be such a passive-aggressive type of guy. I don't know. Always a little weird to me, but he was showing something I was interested in seeing. It didn't matter. Anyway, he goes in this house and he's marveling at this incredible, and I mean incredible, fireplace, and it was done out of this marble that had been imported from Italy. And I'm telling you, the work and the look of this marble, I was just amazed. And she kind of let him on a bit, because she said, "Yeah, so that's lovely." And oh my God, what was the cost? She goes, "Well, not that much, to be honest with you." And he goes like, "What?" Like, even back then, it must have cost a fortune. He goes, "Oh, no. I'll explain how these things were done." And she did. And this is what happened. It was done as far up as a person could reach on maybe an 8-foot ladder. This magnificent marble fireplace with carving and rococo and baroque and all these different mashed all together, and it went up in this beautiful thing right up to the 30-foot ceilings or wherever they were. And she says to him, "Well, anything that's outside of this length, that height?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "It's all faux painted." And he went, "Pardon me?" He goes, "Well, it's faux painted." He was like, "What?" He goes, "Well, they brought artisans in who could mimic this, and they just faux painted it. So if you couldn't touch it, but it looked identical, they saved themselves a fortune." And then he's going, oh. And Jesus Christ, I think I went right there. We'll fix that. Way too far. Now you're wondering what the hell is going on, but trust me, okay? Please. This is not, this is underpainting stuff that you gotta do in order to get these wide expanses of white done. And what I did is I went too far with the armor. It goes like this. It doesn't go like, and the other one goes. That's how it goes. So I didn't want to, if I'm going to get it covered, I'm going to put down a coat on the gesso first. And I want it to really glow the paint, even though it's the background. Not glow like it's shiny, but I want it to glow, have like a reddish tone to it and things like that. Just like Rembrandt did, really. No different idea. You know, for maximum light effect. Like daylight effect coming through. And anyway, so that's what's happening here. That's what's happening. Okay. Work okay. Now I'll go up actually to the top now, adding a little. Even though the transition should peter out further up. So I will peter it out. And I will check it later on to make sure that I've got the right coating. If not, then I'll adjust. But it stands to reason that outside of this source of light, it's dark. So I don't think he went with the red up this. I can't see it in my sketch. And I did make a note, but just following general painting rules, this is what he would have done. So that's what I'm doing. And worst case scenario, you simply paint over it. Because it's acrylic, and you can. You don't have to scrape it all off like you would in oil. I would never, and I mean never, do this with oil paint. Absolutely never. Simply because correcting this kind of stuff would be, oh my God, I don't even want to think about it, okay? It would be a few weeks in the making to fix it. And that is not a problem when the paint's drying as you speak. Anyway, this guy's in this house. It might have been Jay Gould's house. I'm not 100% sure, but for some reason I keep thinking the industrialist Gould. I think it was his house. Or somebody in the same line of commerce or whatever. Anyway, so then she goes, well, yeah, if you look up top here, Bob, you see all those beautiful beams in the ceiling, and they were like 400-year-old black oak beams, oiled. And you're thinking, oh God, every tree must be 500 years old, and they were carved to perfection and all this stuff. He goes, no, Bob, they didn't really do that. He says, no? What did they do? Well, they were made out of like what they would call like a plywood or just a birch boards back then. And they would put them together, and then they would call the guys in who did the plaster work and make it look like they were all carved. So they would kind of do like a negative image of it. And his mouth was wide open. And she said then what they would do was call in the faux painters, and the faux painters would make it look like 500-year-old oak, which turns black, right? And it was like, oh, yeah. And she says, actually, if you go to most of the mansions along the shore here that were built back then, that's kind of how they did it. So it's so he's going, okay. She says, yes, but historically, this is the way things were done. They didn't. If nobody was ever going to touch it or see it, they just had it faux painted. It's not like it was back in like Italy, and he's going like, oh, 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 I see. So everything I'm looking at, if I can touch it, it's real, but if I can't touch it, it's probably just faux painted. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Well, don't get me wrong. The place looked unbelievable. I mean, I can't tell you how incredible it looked. But they didn't spend the money. They didn't. If they didn't touch it, it didn't matter. That's how they looked at it. You know, it's like why would you make a dresser, say a dresser for a bedroom, out of chestnut or chariot or some really nice wood, and then use the same wood to put the drawers in? They didn't. They would use like oak, which was an available wood back then, and it wasn't expensive. You didn't waste your money doing that. And that's how the cabinet makers would make the money up, right? Because yeah, everything you could see was incredible, like chestnuts, bird's eye maples, and oh god, it was just incredible. But inside the drawers, well, who's pulling the drawers out and looking at it? Not many people. And if they did, they probably wouldn't even notice. And that's exactly the point. That's what happened. Every time I go into one of those houses now, I think, what's real and what isn't? And then you realize like, it doesn't really matter because it looks so damn good. And it's true, it looks so damn good, it doesn't matter. You just sit back with your mouth open and go, wow. Then you got to realize too is the craftsmanship that went involved. These guys who were doing the faux painting, they were masters, absolute masters. They certainly saved these guys a ton of dough, but they also, I'm sure, got paid very well. I don't know where it is. I don't know. Maybe it's in Florida, whether it's Marjorie Merriweather Post's estate or something in Florida. Not 100% sure which one it is, but there's a room in Russia they've never allowed anybody to take a picture of. Catherine the Great had the room made, and that is like the rule. You cannot and the rule was you cannot you don't want a picture taken this. It's unique. I think it's called the Amber Room. That's what it's called, the Amber Room. And somebody's huge estate in Florida, I don't know whose, somebody's. They what they did is they reproduced this room down to like the last bauble, and nobody knows how they did it. Like, because there was never a picture taken of the room in Russia, the Amber Room. So how did they do it? Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know how they did it. But the point is they did it. And now people go and see it and say, wow, yeah, that's the Amber Room. There it is. For all to see. Remember, there's something story about that room. I don't know whether it's been lost or... I know it was deconstructed. Second World War, I think. But nobody... I don't think anybody knows where it is. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'd have to look it up, but something about it. But anyway, it's reproduced perfectly. Marjorie Merriweather Post, maybe her? I don't know. Somebody who was a big heiress who built the huge mansion somewhere. Just hope to God it's not Mar-a-Lago. even imagine. Anyway. So we're getting this background in. And you're seeing some faux painting techniques right now. That's how you do it. The texture. It's not quite dry, so I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to let it dry. Just going to let it dry. I'm going to go up this side of it too. I decided what I'm going to do for tonight is I'm going to work on this tomorrow night as well. But what I'll do is I'm going to go and basically run out where the feathers are. Is Bodhi. Feathers is like for the helmet. Kind of where it goes. I want to see if I can get the background in that way, and then I've got some work to do regarding the leather look down here, and there's a lot of work to do here, etc., etc., etc. Now I'm going to put another coat of ochre on here. I get a base tone in again. I can still see my lines. Even though the paint's going on much thicker now, I can still see them. And I will see them till I get like the good quality paint on it, which is the cadmium colors, etc. I'm just getting that done, even though it's coming down, and I actually should go in there too. Actually should. No, I don't. Newton gives you a millimeter more paint. Why? What? Oh, I know what. Oh, because it's... Well, isn't that weird? Okay. One tube says 2 fluid ounces US. The other tube says 2 fluid ounces fluid US. And then it says 59 millimeters, and it says 60 milliliters. So I ask you, inquiring minds want to know, what happened to the other milliliter? Gotta say, you know, I've never forgiven one of our prime ministers. His name was Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Never forgave him for taking us off into the metric system. The reason I never forgave him is for like the last, well, since I guess the early 70s, I haven't known really what the temperature is, how far I'm going, how fast I'm going, or what things weigh. And there must be a lot of people like me, because when you go into the grocery store in Toronto, nothing is in kilos. They have everything marked in pounds and ounces. So I ask, if it's so was so successful, why then are you still, since 70, I guess, still doing it in still doing the measurements in the grocery stores in pounds, etc., instead of kilos? Now, I must say that they have kilos and pounds, but when they're putting the prices up, they go so much a pound. They don't do so much a kilo, they say so much a pound. So if it's ubiquitous, why are they doing that? And I'll tell you how bad it is. One time, the news I watch, the Canadian news I watch, you find out what's going on in Toronto every night. So you watch the national news. Often CBC is what I watch, but anyway. See what's happening in your own country, you know? So I watch it, and often I go to the weather, and I'll email them and say, would you put the temperatures in Fahrenheit and as well as Celsius, please? And for years they did it. Now, they didn't do it because of me. I'm not implying that. But there must have been a lot of people asking to do that. But I noticed one of the stations now has stopped doing it. So, in protest, I'm not watching that station anymore. Because, why? Not they've done nothing wrong, but I don't know what the temperature is anymore. You don't tell me it's what it is, I don't know. Like, and on my car, I can do kilometers or miles. I can do Fahrenheit. I can do, you know, it comes in both ways. It goes, you can have either or. And what's wrong with that? Even the speedometer still has miles per hour on it. And kilometers per hour, but they still have both. So why can't we have a dual system going here? I mean, just because they were idiots, I mean, and I know the rest of the world is all on metric. I know that. I don't care. I really don't. I really don't care. Let them be on metric. Enjoy it. I'm not figuring out. I just don't know what the temperature is. Is it warm out? Is it cold? Like, I know 0 is 32 and all that stuff. I know all that. But I don't really know what temperature is. You tell me it's like 17 degrees? I don't know what that is. I know what it is in Fahrenheit, but I don't know. And then one time when I sat down and I kind of didn't figure it out so much, but just sort of, God, what's happening here? There, I'm sorry, I have to go a little higher there. Hope you can see it. But oh, what was I going to say? I don't know. Jesus, bad. Anyway, I know what the temperature. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. So one time, like, you know, I'm a Canadian. Canadians grow up where it's cold. I'll be first to admit it. Is it colder than hell in Canada? You know, it's cold. No question about it. And because it's so damn cold, it's you know, I would be watching the weather, not knowing the temperature, and it says, "Oh, bundle up tonight. It's going to be like, I don't know, 10 degrees or 10 degrees below 0. Ooh, geez, that's cold. Because I'm thinking Fahrenheit, right? I'm going, so I'm instantly I go, oh wow, that's pretty cold. Like, you know, 10 below 0, yeah. Then I go, wait a minute, 0 is 32 degrees. So you're telling me to bundle up, and this is the kind of weather we used to go out without a jacket on. So it's insidious, you know? Like, they convince themselves how cold it is by thinking in Fahrenheit and being told in Celsius. So I'm going out, I got my spring coat on. They go, whoa, you know it's only like 10 degrees out? I go, yeah. Why you got your spring jacket on? Well, because that's 50 degrees. And they go, it is? I say, yeah. It's it's warm. It's warm out. That's warm to me. 50 degrees is pretty good. So then they figure it out and go, well, yeah, why am I getting my mucklucks on? What is going on here? Like, well, you're being told to worry about something that is not a worry. Being led to believe you're in an ice age when you're not. Nope, just not. This is where the heavy body paint kind of works against you, because when you're doing a big expansive area like this, you're smoothing the paint. So what happens is you've really got to brush it, which is okay. I mean, it's no big deal. But I much prefer by the same token, I much prefer the heavy body paint. Because really, if you're really intent on buying the, well, I'll be honest with you. The reason I like it is because simply, it reminds me of oil paint when it's heavy body. So I know oil paint like the back. I know what it feels like, and heavy body feels like that. So that's why. But if you want to buy soft body, buy it. But the thing is, if you want heavier body, then just buy the medium. Just put it into the paint, and then you've got it. Yeah. Really, that's all there is to it. Nothing mysterious or nothing you have to go crazy over. Just easy peasy. Now, when I'm doing the background in here like I am, I've been moving between Payne's gray and black. And there's a reason for that. I don't want one tone all the way across the painting, okay? I don't want that. I want dark, but I want a more complicated background. And I want the person's eye to look at it and go, well, that's not quite as dark there, but that's interesting. That's what I want. I don't want them to just look at it and go, yeah, it's all black. Something in their mind's eye says, yeah, it's all black, but it's kind of not really all black. Is it? And that's what you want. You want them to say, is it? And when they go, actually, no, it isn't. That's interesting. And what's happening? They're looking at the painting longer, which is the whole point. So that's kind of what you have to bear in mind, right? You have to. Painting's a little bit of psychology. You make people more interested. What do you put in a painting that makes people want? A number of things you can do. But an easy thing to do is just vary your background. Somebody put some burnt umber in over there. So I've got a range. I've got from Payne's gray, which is sienna and ultramarine blue, to quin orange, to black. So you've got a smorgasbord of colors to look at. That, to me, makes it more interesting. Gotta get around the detail. Now this little brush motion I'm doing here, how you get that mottled look on paint, gives it a really interesting texture. And that's kind of a technique that you want to learn how to do and incorporate into your paintings if you're doing background. And one of the reasons an airbrush works so good is because you can play your colors so beautifully with. I even considered that, to be honest with you, in this painting. I was thinking, you know what, I might just airbrush it back. I thought, nah, I'm going to stay with the actual painting technique. Or acrylic from oil, so I'll stay with that. But I had considered it, but not for long. Where it overlaps, you can kind of go in where it joins. You can sort of make it a little heavier, make it a little lighter. You can let the. But see, what's happening is you're seeing this like Rembrandt did. He allowed for this reddish light to come through, which is in the same color as the same side of the color wheel as the white, yellow, golds, and you know, like he knew what he was doing, and it worked really well. And by the way, don't use your best brush to do this technique. Just go get a garden variety brush, because it's harder than hell on the brushes, and they will cry uncle at some point. Because you're doing a little bit of dry brushing, you're doing a little bit of dabbing. You can see you're not being really gentle with the brush by any means. So they tend to take the abuse, but they're not expensive enough to worry about. So what you do is you just sort of pick your battle. Like, save your best brushes when you're doing really fine work, right? Use your crap brushes, or not, maybe not crap, but I mean use brushes that aren't expensive brushes on stuff that it doesn't matter. And really, does it matter? No, it doesn't. Just getting a background in. A background isn't about application so much, it's about planning. Like, what do I want? What do I want it to look like? Because really, you're not drawing anything. What you're doing is you're just putting color in. You don't have to make sure it's exactly the right shade and all this stuff. You don't. Well, yeah, sorry, you do. Sorry, you do have to worry about that. But you don't have to have it when you're drawing, you know, like you're painting a face in or something. Have exactly the right tone and stuff like that. You just don't need to do that, because there's nothing really being drawn. Really what you're doing is just putting in color. That's what I'm saying. And that will be, let's see, look at it so you can see it better. Now you can see it. Oh. Take the glare off it, maybe. There it comes. There he is. That is all reddish color. That isn't, there. Hold on. There we go. See it? See the reds coming through? Just the glare off the wet paint. So as soon as it dries out, it'll be fine. Just so you can see. And you can adjust these any way you like. But as it stands now, I've got that reddish coming here, and what I'll do is I'll do this. Well, actually I should do it now, shouldn't I? I'm talking about it, and I didn't do it. Okay. Okay. No time like the present. I don't think. Anyway, I hope you're happy with the next pick, the girl with the pearl earring. I hope that happy with that. That'll be started as this one's fit. Getting closer every day. Every day. Now, what I'm going to do is a little trick here. Trick of the trade. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of diox in. And that diox will go onto undertow painting of twin red, or twin orange I should say, has a very dark color. And places like this where it came through a little bit, I'm just going to pop the mint diox to sort of tie it in. So your eye kind of goes, oh yeah, that's it. Gentle transition. Gentle transition. Nice. I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but it's the same pattern. I can move it up so you can see it, but really it's just down. I'm just going down to cover up the corner padding of the diox, and I'll show you the end result, because I can move it all the way around, but really it's not that big. So again, what I've said to you is here. But now you can see. Now you can see it. So, to recap, I've gone from burnt umber, an underpainting of twin orange, to ivory black, all the way up to and then diox purple for pat-ins. And you know, when your eye catches just a spot of color like that, it makes it makes the background look interesting to people. And that's kind of what you want. Well, it is what you want. You want something that people think is. Now, if you don't want if you want a shiny background, you just put a little bit of glazing medium in it to give it some shine. If you want a flat background, I prefer the background flat, to be honest with you, because I'm looking for contrast. So I don't want to. I may later. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm saying that I might be looking for. But normally I want something that's flat because I want painting to pop, not the background to pop. I want the background to complement the painting, not make it more important than the painting. Obviously. They cut the board. There's a little wee bit. You don't see that, I know, because it's underneath. If you frame it, the little frame fits into that like an eighth of an inch. You don't see. I don't know. I just like to cover it completely. Don't ask me that. I don't know. Just one of those things. Getting some And you can see a little texture in the background. That's always good too. So what I've done tonight is the background. I finished off the helmet. Let me get the camera. Oh, no. Sorry. That's better. So I've got the feathers to do, okay, and I've got the front of the plate to do, which will be done. And in the interim, then I'll do final highlighting, touch-ups, etc., etc. And when it's done, there's a fair bit to do. I mean, I know I'm making it sound like, oh well, it's almost done. It really isn't. There's some work to be done on it still. There's a lot of places here I've just underpainted, and to be really honest with you, I should underpaint. But while I'm working on this, I'll underpaint this, and then it'll be dry by the time I get to it. So that's why I'm not concerned. What I really wanted to do was get in the background, and I was going to get this on it, but because of the underpainting, I wanted to because this is going to be the opposite. It's going to have like the quin orange on top of it to give it that metal and red reflective look. And I have to get a really shiny part that's coming through here, which is armor, which is this neck piece armor that goes just underneath his neck here. But my friends, I certainly hope you enjoyed tonight. I did. I'm not painting as long as I did last night, I know, but I hope that you enjoyed it. We will definitely be back tomorrow night, Wednesday, to bring him closer to completions, and I do promise I will be doing the feathers at that time. I absolutely promise. So you'll see the fan brush and all its glory. And I will say thank you this evening. I hope you enjoyed the music. I know that actually I adjusted that, and now you can't really. There we go. Take one down here so you can see the color a bit better. Oh. Trying to get it so you can color it. See the reds that are going through here? There of the light, the painting light. But anyway, you can see the skin tones, the reds, the highlights, and you can see the backgrounds in, and now it's making the helmet just pop, right? The man in the golden helmet. There it is. Oh god, it's even when I do that. Okay. Anyway, that's it for that, and I just want to put this on here right now. Make sure this is set for maximum resolution. Perfect. Okay. Now you're seeing them. Okay. And that's the man in the golden helmet, and the feathers will go on, and the armor will be done below, and really, I can't thank you enough for coming by, and enjoy, and we'll see you again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Be there, and I will too. Have a nice evening. Good night.